Yeah, what's happening? We about to bring that action. Gotta hold it down for my Seattle Kraken. Hey, we going beneath the waves. We going beneath the waves. Get it hype, step onto the ice. Ready for some action. Release the Kraken. Hey, we going beneath the waves. Going beneath the waves.
What is up, everyone? Welcome into the Beneath the Waves podcast, your weekly recap of all things Seattle hockey and beyond. I am Matt.
I'm Alex.
And I'm Derek.
And we are now into episode 34 of the BTW pod, and a lot has happened this week. We have back-to-back very packed weeks of content here. Today, we're going to break down everything from free agency, the draft, and all the other Kraken news we have. But before we get into Kraken news, we actually have some very important BTW news that we need to say as well. So you might have heard in the intro there, we are without Heather once again. She just has a very busy schedule this week, but we have some very exciting, Heather-related news. Now, if you're a frequent return listener, you might know we have this kind of running gimmick where anytime someone curses or says something obscene, we play the Kraken goal horn. And I think I'm going to play the Kraken goal horn now because we have some pretty exciting announcements. So Derek, can you let us know the big BTW news that happened this week?
Yes, you may have seen it posted on our social media, but our own Heather Koimuka is now writing for the Hockey News, the women's division covering PWHL Seattle. She currently has her first article out now on Lily Delianidis.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Okay. Lily Delianidis, she was the 24th overall pick by PWHL Seattle this year, and Heather got to interview her one-on-one, no strings attached. There was no money that Heather had to, it's insane. This is just ridiculous. Heather did such a good job, and she wrote it up into an article. It's available now. Go check it out on the Hockey News Women's. And yeah, just want to say congrats from all three of us. You guys can say congrats too to Heather. We're just so happy, proud, excited. There's just so many words that we could use. Heather has just been grinding and now she's literally doing official stuff. It's just insane.
Yeah, she's not leaving us in the dust, but we are now in her shadow of hockey coverage, and we can just kind of be the fanboys wanting to live up to what she's putting up. So if you haven't done so yet, make sure you go over on Twitter at Heather Nicole, and that is Nicole with no E. Send her a congratulations if you haven't done so yet. Awesome stuff. But we're here to talk Kraken. And like I said off the top, it was a very, very busy week. We are going to start with our most recent news, that being the free agent frenzy on July 1st. However, hours before, the day before free agency, we did learn right at the buzzer that the Kraken had extended qualifying offers to our RFAs, who are Capo Caco, Riker Evans, and Ty Cartier. For those like me who always needs constant reminders, could one of you lay out what a qualifying offer entails in this RFA process?
So in regards to a qualifying offer, it basically just allows the team that they currently play for, so i.e. the Seattle Kraken, to own their rights for the coming season and to continue to discuss contract negotiations, so to speak. When you don't do a qualifying offer, they become unrestricted free agents and they get sent out to the land of nowhere, where any of the 32 teams can claim them and offer them a contract. Whereas when you QO them, they have their rights still. So they are basically the first ones that can offer a contract. And if any other team offer sheets them, that team can match it. So if a team came in and offered Capo Caco a 6-year, $448 million contract, their Kraken could be like, absolutely not. Thank you for the draft picks. Or they could be like, no, we want to do this. So that's kind of what happens.
All right. So does this mean that your running bit of day X of asking for them to re-sign Capo Caco is still ongoing, or is it now in limbo because they've at least done something and we now just wait?
No, it's definitely still going. I just totally forgot, to be brutally honest. I think we're at day 12 on actual tweeting, but we're probably on like day like 24 on.
I was gonna say I wasn't
tweeting.
sure if you knew that because I think we were on like day 8 and you're like, oh, day 4, and I'm like, wait, what?
It's just day 4 of him asking, not
Yeah, like
consecutive day 4.
it just gets so busy. Do you know like how many times that like how many things have happened in the span of a week? I don't really always remember to be like, I need to quote tweet this tweet again
Hey,
because it hasn't happened.
maybe GM Jason Botterill's also forgetting with all the stuff going on that he hasn't re-signed him yet.
Maybe he was like, "Hey, he forgot to ask me today, so I'm not going to do it, and it's all your fault that he's
You
not
know what? I'm
signed."
gonna find his Twitter account and just be like, "Yo, resign Capo Caco."
But we can say like we don't need to be super paranoid and panicky because wasn't it like end of August that Matty Beniers signed his last year? Like it was
Yeah,
pretty
he
late in the
also got a
summer.
QO
Yeah.
before he re-signed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they get a QO. Like it's stereotypical fashion where like the Kraken are just like 2 minutes before the actual like the deadline are like, oh, by the way, we offered qualifying offers, but like they probably did it a few days ago. They just decide to announce it at the very last minute. But yeah, I'm not concerned whatsoever. I definitely think all three of these players are going to are going to sign for some form of money, but it could be end of July, it could be August. I'm not concerned about it.
Sweet. All right, so moving on into the actual free agency now. Compared to past years, I'd say the Kraken were pretty tame this year, this time around, spending only $5.5 million across 2 players. Maybe this was due to the trades that we had in recent weeks, one of which we're going to talk about a little bit later. But we now do have 2 players to talk about. The first move that was made midway through the day on July 1st by the Kraken was signing defenseman Ryan Lindgren. Lindgren came our way from the Colorado Avalanche. However, he spent his last season with time split between the Avalanche and the New York Rangers. In the 72 games that he played last season, he had 4 goals and 18 assists. He also had 3 assists in the Avs 7 playoff games. The Kraken signed Lindgren to a 4-year deal at an AAV of $4.5 million. In a tweet that I saw from Mike Benton, Lindgren spoke about his decision to come to Seattle, saying, quote, "They are a team that seems like they're up and coming right now. They've got a lot of really good young talent mixed in with some older guys that are really good players. He's out here trying to build a culture of hard work and winning," end quote. I know that we and the Kraken internet community at large have some feelings about what this signing might mean for the Kraken down the road. Before we get to that, overall, how do you feel about Lindgren joining the decor this season?
Yeah, I just wanted to go back to sort of like the free agency, like we were talking about, Matt, and it just wasn't really quite the frenzy for the Kraken that we had last year. We got 2 30-year-old big name, big contracts, 7 years, 7 years here, 7 years here, you're 30, you're 30. But I think that's honestly a good move here because the free agency was kind of stinky.
And all the
And I
exciting stuff happened the day before.
Yeah,
exactly
All,
that's
all the
true.
all the
30th.
fun
Well, not
people
for the
were gone.
Kraken, but
Yeah, I
yeah.
know, in general.
Yeah. No, that's 100% true too. But I like saving money. The free agents were kind of stinky after, like you said, after the frenzy before the free agency. And I think adding Lindgren, a lot of people were freaking out about it at first. I think it's kind of a mid move. And mid in the real sense, not mid in like the, oh, it's really bad, but we're gonna say it's mid. Mid that it's not really good and it's not really bad. I don't think it's too great. But like I said, I don't think it's too bad. 4 years at 4.5 mil AAV could be worth it if Lindgren gets back into form. He's an extremely solid, reliable 20 minutes a night top 4 defenseman when he's like healthy and not banged up. But the last couple of years he's been pretty brutal. I saw a JFresh graphic that said he was like a 0% wins above replacement, so like he's worse than 100% players, which just that's insane. Um, but yeah, I mean, the way I see Lindgren, if he's playing at his peak, is like an elite upgrade to like a Will Borgen type of like shut down defense type guy. Just for comparison on Colorado last year, these are his full season stats, but compared to the rest of the Colorado decor, he was first in shot blocks with 128 and second in hits with 80. And then I wanted to highlight some negative stats too. He was last on the Avalanche in terms of on ice unblocked shot attempt percentage while he was on the ice and on ice expected goals against per 60 minutes. So not great stats. We're hoping for a bounce back for him for sure. If he plays like he did last year and the year before, not a good move.
Yeah. Like I don't want to kick him while he's down. Like the fact that like we haven't seen a game with Ryan Lindgren in Seattle Kraken uniform, and to say that this was a bad signing is kind of harsh. But kind of what Derek mentioned about the whole J Fresh, 0% on the projected WAR, which is absolutely an abomination, so to speak. What he actually said was, so Ryan Lindgren signed a 4 by $4.5 million contract by Seattle. He's a defensive defenseman. He's pretty mobile. He plays bigger than his frame. He blocks shots. He kills penalties. He also torpedoed Adam Fox's numbers and had the worst results on a good Avs team in the regular season and playoffs. And then he kind of goes on that says, some quite good teams obviously appreciated what Lindgren brings to the table. Avs fans liked him, but his teams give up way more and generate way less when he steps on the ice. So I know this is all projections. These are all, looking at statistics and advanced stats, yada, yada, yada. The stats community are going to love it. If you're just like an old time fashioned hockey guy, person watching it, you're going to look at it and be like, I like to see what he can do on the ice.
Exactly.
So positive side of this, whoa, shocking. It's an upgrade because I think what you might say that it's a Will Borgen type upgrade. I look at it as this is Jamie Olesiak, but he's going to use his frame that Jamie Olesiak can't. I definitely think that with Lindgren, he blocks shots, he uses his body, he does everything that you need to have in a defensive defenseman, whereas Jamie Olesiak doesn't. The only concern I have, and it's because I've spoken to people who are Rangers fans and I've spoken to Avalanche fans, and they've basically all said the same thing, where he's done so much during his time a few years back that he's just broken, so to speak. So, we don't really know what we're going to get. We could get someone who's fantastic that plays really well with Brandon Montour, because that's most likely the player that he's going to play with, or we can get the ghost of his former self, and he could just be absolutely horrible for 4 seasons. It's kind of hard to tell. Contract wise, I'm not worried about it because someone's always going to want someone like this guy on their team. Any playoff contending team is going to be like, big body, does exactly what we need. Okay, we'll trade for him. Cap's going to go up. $4.5 million is nothing. It's pennies on the dollar. Having said that, I kind of wish we didn't do this, because at the end of the day, I looked at our defense and I didn't see any issues, so to speak. When you look at our team, defense was not an issue. So you bring in a defenseman like Ryan Lindgren, and then you look at it and go, okay, well, obviously a trade is going to happen because Josh Mahura has earned his spot on this team. He's played much better than sitting in the rafters, not in the rafters, in the press box, eating popcorn, and being like, I should be on the ice. So, this is kind of one of those head scratchers moments where you definitely look at this and everyone's been speaking about the Jamie Olesiak problem most likely being dealt. So it's kind of interesting because I don't know what Botterill is doing, because this has definitely been a head scratcher type of signing. As soon as it was announced, I was confused by it. And about 3 days later, I'm still looking at it and I'm like, I don't know where and why we did this. He's a character guy in the dressing room, so it could be something like that. But when you really look at it, it's definitely a head scratcher.
So when I think of the running theory that this means Alexiak is going to get traded away, be that before the season starts or at the deadline or whatever it may be, I see this as a lateral kind of movement, just finding someone to fill that void, because he played 10 less games than Alexiak did last season. He had the same amount of goals. He had 5 more assists. He costs 100K less, which really, what does that matter? But he seems like he's just filling that 6'7" frame that Alexiak will eventually leave whenever that happens to happen. I'm very curious if and when that Alexiak move happens, because I would assume that this means that that 7th person in the press box role is going to be maybe bounced back and forth between Mahura and Riker Evans, because I would think that you'd keep Dunn and Larson, Alexiak, Montour, and then Lindgren and one of those other 2 guys, or just shuffle around. But I definitely have a feeling that Muzz and Riker are going to be spending some popcorn and nacho time up in the box.
I think if there is an Olesiak trade, I think that it's Mr. Fleury. I think that's who's the number 7D.
Yeah.
But I don't see this team going into the regular season with Jamie Olesiak and Lindgren on the same team. Like they're like identical in a lot of what they do, and I just think it's at a negative for this team to come in with both of those players in the lineup. Like that's what I just look at.
They're not identical in one way that'll make Derek really happy, in that Ryan Lindgren is 5 years younger than Jamie Oleksiak at 32 years old.
He's also about 55 pounds lighter, so he's not going to be moving around like a giant Stonehenge out there.
Yeah, but he uses his body like Jamie Olesiak doesn't.
Yep, true. And he's quicker.
All right, so we'll just have to wait that one out and see how it pans out here. Like we said, we can't really make any judgments till we see it in action. Maybe it's just a breath of fresh air, or fresher air, since he had a breath of fresh air last season with the Colorado move, and something will pick up and run away
Yeah.
with him. We'll just have to
Younger
wait
is
and
always
see.
better, though. You're right, Matt.
Yeah, says the baby of the pod who's not dealing with back problems as we sit in our ergonomic chairs right now. All right. Our second move was a little less exciting as we signed Toronto goaltender Matt Murray to a 1 year, $1 million deal. Last year, Murray played 2 games with the Maple Leafs with a goals against average of 3.54 and a save percentage of .879. More notably, though, he did spend most of last season playing for the Marlies of the AHL, playing in 21 games with a 1.72 goals against average and a 934 save percentage. I remember taking in on Twitter people getting pissed about this move and being like, why are we wasting this? This is a waste of money. But the way I see it and the way I'm justifying it in my brain is Alisteska hit the road and went back over to Czechia or wherever he went to. And we need a backup for Nicky Coco. And if we can get this guy who put in big AHL numbers that can give him some support there and help him out, and then say, knock on wood, GRU or Joey happened to go down and we need an NHL level fill in, he can come up and be that backup spot. So I'm trying to view it with a little bit of cheap positivity. It's better to have a $1 million dude down in CV than sticking GRU down there with his almost $6 million like we did last season. But maybe that's just the rookie green brain of me, and you guys have more spicy, this is an absolute trash move takes than I do. So let me hear
You
it.
know what? I think that's a pretty solid take, Matt, for once. No, I'm just kidding. But really, really, I mean, you're paying $1 million for like a mild like goalie insurance. You still have a lot of cap left. It's not a huge deal. But really, the one thing I want to say here is if anyone was wondering what the fair market value is for Phillip Grubauer based on the way he played last year, it is a 1-by-1 contract because he had the exact same stats as GRU. This is where GRU should be right now, not 6 mil. Just wanted to say that. You take it away, Alex.
So we're talking about Matt Murray, the two-time Stanley Cup champion, who decided to sign with Toronto, or no, sorry, got traded to Toronto because he was with the Senators, and then, you know, there's that. But yeah, he's rocking the same type of numbers as Grubauer, making hell of a lot less. The way I look at this is that when he did play in the AHL, he had the best save percentage in the AHL actually. So there's one thing. He does have that pedigree of being a winner in the NHL, even though we're talking about eons ago. So that's good for an up and coming like Coco. So that's good for that. I'm gonna call it. Our backup probably halfway through the season will be Matt Murray. I think Grubauer is just going to absolutely choke brutally hard, and they're going to just ship him down to the minors and call it Matt Murray and be like, hey, let's see what happens. Because I'd rather have $1 million contract on the books than 5.9. But yeah, Derek said it perfectly. It's pretty depressing when you see the Kraken sign a defenseman at 1.1, or sorry, 1 year at
Goalie.
$1 million. And you look at his numbers and go, those are Phillip Grubauer numbers. And you look at Phillip Grubauer's contract and go, dear God, oh boy, look at those numbers. Look at those dollar signs. Oh God. So, we can talk about the fact that, the Kraken didn't buy out Grubauer and all that fun stuff. I, for one, was like 100% guaranteed. Like, I was committed to the fact that like the Kraken were going to buy him out, especially once they traded Burakovsky. And then when it didn't happen, I was kind of like, WTF. The more I think about it, though, it makes more sense to keep him because you let him play this year, see what happens. He could be a a reclamation project, and if he
Yeah.
turns out good, then cool. And if he doesn't, well, guess what? You have 1 year left, and you buy that out then, and you say, "See
Yeah.
you later." You get him on his horse, and you let him sail off into the sunset.
I was gonna say
The
we
horse is
are.
on a boat.
Oh,
Yeah.
what?
Well, he's probably going back to Europe. So there you go.
I was gonna say, in fact, we will be discussing the lack of the Grubauer buyout, I think, right?
I was gonna say, like, we can totally dismantle my hours that I put into these notes and
Yeah,
jump down to the later part.
no, because
Uh,
my notes are specifically set around that being the closing. So I have like
Gotcha.
a
We'll go
closing
back to
Gotcha.
argument.
it. We'll go
Yeah,
back
yeah,
to
yeah,
it.
yeah.
We'll
Okay,
go
so
back to it.
tease for later.
I got
Tease for
more on
later.
it. I got more
Yeah,
on it. Okay, don't worry.
we're gonna keep beating the dead horse that is GRU. See what I
Bro.
did there? Because the horse thing. Just one
You
last
guys.
thought on Murray here. The exciting part about the 1 year to me is this can make it really exciting next off season. Because if we buy out GRU and we let Coco move up to the Joey backup spot, Victor Osman lights up ECHL again this season. He bumps up to the AHL. So that shortness of restriction on time frame leaves to me a lot of room to shuffle things up down the line and make some exciting things happen.
We also have a Russian over in the K who
Yeah, I can't
is
remember his
staying
name.
in the K this year. I can't remember his name, but
Is that Saranin or whatever his name is? Or
yeah, he was like,
there's a couple
he,
guys.
yeah, and he was like the best goaltender in the K this year. So like, give
Oh,
him
wow.
another year, bring him over. All of a sudden, you have Osman and Buddy from Russia, playing in Coachella. Nothing to complain about that.
Got sneaky goalie depth.
And there's nothing wrong with having a two-time cup winner helping your what is Coco, like 20 years old, something like that, showing him the ropes and helping him out. So
Yeah.
good move there, I think, in the end. A good, cheap, we'll see how it plays out move. Lastly, however, with the free agent action, we did have to bid farewell to our last remaining UFA and Mikey Asemont, who we picked up at the trade deadline last season. He was acquired by the Boston Bruins on a 2 year deal worth $1.45 million AAV. I don't think we have a whole lot to say about him. I'll just say happy for him to get that deal signed. He got a nice pay bump because I think he was only making like the 800K last season, something like that. It wasn't a huge amount. So nice, juicy payday for him, and he gets 2 years on a contract there. So way to go, Ace. Best of luck. Have fun with Morgan Geeky and whoever. He's the only one that's over there right now from Kraken past, right?
That's 32 goal scoring, Morgan Geeky.
Oh, pardon me.
Yeah, what do you get, like 5 mil?
Yeah, I got like
5.5 or
5.5 or something like that.
Yeah, there is some juicy Kraken deals. Brandon Tanev got picked up by Utah. Uh,
something?
who else do we have? He's gonna just keep taking his ghost face to different places.
We got Donato signing a big contract in
Donato
Chicago.
re-signed. Derek, I think you have 57 minutes planned on Ryan Donato and how he was undervalued, don't you?
Man, I mean, only in my dreams. I fall asleep and then we have Donato and then I wake up and it's pain again.
Yeah. And then quickly running down some Coachella Valley free agency. The following players were re-signed. We talked about some of these already. Defenseman Gustav Olofsson, goalie Jack LaFontaine, forward Ian McKinnon, forward John Hayden, and defenseman Cale Fleury. We talked about those last two previously. The following players have left Coachella Valley. Goaltender Alex Steska, who we just talked about, forward Brandon Bureau, and defenseman Nicholas Brouillard. And that leaves us with two players still unsigned, and forward Luke Henman and defenseman Max Lejoie. So, Alex, you're a resident Coachella Valley guy. Any thoughts on that lot?
Olofsson is a great veteran defenseman coming into his 30s, or he's into his 30s right now. So good veteran presence down in the A. Jacques Lafontaine played a lot of his time with the ECHL with the Mavericks. So you might see him jump back and forth between the Mavericks and the Firebirds this season. McKinnon, reliable AHL guy. John Hayden, Mr. Bodyguard, love that man to bits. And Cale Fleury, he's going to get his air miles again this season, probably. Won't be shocked if that's the case with him. Players that left, Setska, I think we all kind of knew that it was going to happen. I still can't believe that he got, a rookie card in Upper Deck this year. And,
Yeah.
Yanni Newman didn't. Brandon Vero and Nicholas Brouillard, yeah, you guys good, but, see you later. Still unsigned, Luke Henman, the original Kraken. I think he's just going to keep re-signing with the with the Coachella Valley Firebirds until he's like 90, and he's like, I was the first one. I was the first Kraken, and it's like, okay, Grandpa, let's get
Yeah,
you
all
that
right,
beer
old
burn.
man. Let's put you to bed.
And then Maxime Lejoie, he had a great season last year with the Firebirds, and I don't think he could contend for like a bottom two role in the NHL, but he could contend for like a seventh defenseman on like a bad team, not like the Kraken, because the Kraken already have Cale Fleury. So like I wouldn't be shocked for like maybe a team to like take a shot at Lajoie, but I wouldn't be shocked at the same time to see if the Firebirds re-signed him.
All right. Uh, I am assuming that we can't see Derek right now because he has no cam on, but I'm assuming he just left the room for the last 5 minutes as he tends to do for
Always
Coachella Valley
does. He
discussions.
hears Firebirds and he goes, "Caw," and he flies off.
Lowe's knows that no matter your paint project, saving is at the top of your list. That's why when you shop today, you can buy one, get one free select Valspar and HGTV Home by Sherwin-Williams one-coat coverage interior paints via rebate. Shop these deals in-store or online today at Lowe's. We help, you save. Rebate in form of Visa gift card equal to 100% off the second eligible item purchased before or after applicable discounts, if any. See details. Offer ends 7/9.
Yeah. All right, so that wraps free agency. Now we're going to move into last week with the 2025 NHL entry draft, which went down with the Seattle Kraken walking away with 6 new prospects, 1 center, 1 right wing, and 4 defensemen. Before we even get into the draft selections that the Kraken made, we have to talk about the draft itself. This year, rather than having all the teams in one arena making their picks, visiting neighboring
God.
tables to make moves, taking photo ops on the stage, everything was done decentralized, as they kept saying. So teams basically zoomed in. It was like the COVID draft, but way more annoying. And the draftees toured if you watch the show, like a Big Brother-esque soundstage with big screens. They're going into the I don't even remember what they called the room, but there's some room they went into. So they went through a variety of spaces to get their jersey, interview with their new bosses, and talk with the broadcast host. This was a long process for all 32 teams, and I think it topped out around 4.5 hours or so. Personally, I was psyched that the Kraken had pick number 8, so I was able to turn it off and go about my life after about an hour or so. This was widely criticized and shot down and crapped on Twitter. What do you guys think of this decentralized format this year?
Never again. Jesus, it was horrible. Like you said, Matt, thank God the Kraken drafted 8th overall because we didn't have to endure a whole 4.5 hour, 5 hours just to be like, who are we drafting? For me, watching these kids walk into a room where they're just staring at a screen with their new bosses staring at them is my version of is my personal hell. So to see these kids who are 17 and 18 being like, "Yes, sir, thank you for drafting me, sir. I'll do better, sir. I promise I'll do great." And then
Unless
like,
you're, I think it was the Chicago guy that they're like, how do you think about your new prospect? And there's just the guy staring at the screen
yeah,
because they lost connection or something.
yeah, like
Just awkward as hell.
everything about it was terrible. My wife and I were watching it. My wife's like, "Wait, do they do this every year?" And I'm like, "No, they're at what was it, the Sphere last year?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were at the Sphere last year." And she's like, "Oh, that's so cool. Why did they do it like this?" And I'm like, "I don't know. Like it was a terrible idea. Like every single part of this entire draft was like they tried to mimic like the NBA, like the NFL, and in NHL fashion, they fell flat on their face and guaranteeing that they will never do this again."
Yeah. Not much to add to that really. You guys said it pretty well. Just complete disgust, horrible experience. Really it's for anyone that doesn't really like small talk, it's like your absolute nightmare because it's just the most NPC like generic dialogue tree of like, "Oh, thank you so much, sir, for trusting me and picking me." And then the GM is like, "Yes, kid, we will see you soon." But that takes like 6 minutes and it's just horrible. It is so bad. And yeah, they're not doing that again. There's no shot.
No
The one
shot.
thing I will say that made me laugh is that they had the interviewer in that room at the same time, and they're like, "Well, how are you feeling right now?" And they're like, "I feel very great, thank you." Like, what do you want to tell your new the GM? Be like, I will show you what I can do." Be like, well, yeah, you just got drafted by the team. You're gonna have to. Like, I don't. Never again. Just don't do it again, please.
Well, before we get into the Kraken side, there were, I would say, 2 big winners out of this draft. The first being New York Islanders number 1 pick, Matthew Schaefer. If you didn't see him get drafted, pull it up on the YouTubes and have a box of Kleenex ready because it was just tearing your heartstrings out of your chest. Second winner was Anaheim Ducks pick Roger McQueen, who I was personally hoping for, who, as soon as he was picked, was loaded onto a helicopter and flown to Disneyland and just GTFO from the rest of that draft. Everyone else was left sitting there, and this dude was parading around Cars Land and meeting Donald Duck. So those were the two big winners. But I would say maybe the Kraken had a winner on the night. On our last show, we were very hopeful that the Kraken would improve their defensive depth with a first pick, but the Kraken are going to Kraken, and they took center with the eighth overall pick. And Jake O'Brien, the 2024-25 season with the Brantford Bulldogs in the OHL had O'Brien playing in 66 games, and he recorded 32 goals and 66 assists. In the fast facts that were put out by Seattle Kraken PR on Twitter, it was written that JOB had 9 power play goals and 3 game-winning goals, 2 hat tricks, and had 26 multi-point games, as well as being the OHL Rookie of the Year in the 2023-24 season. He has also represented Team Canada on 2 occasions, winning gold at the 2024 Hlinka Gretzky Cup. And it is also worth noting, as has become tradition, today when we were recording this, OB signed his entry-level contract at the final day of Kraken Dev Camp, a 3-year deal with an AAV of $975K. Now that the dust is settled on this draft, how are we feeling about this top pick for the Kraken?
So I love this pick. When you're drafting, it's all about value. I know we always want a defenseman, but this was just the best value there at the time. These guys aren't going to be ready for at least a couple of years, and yeah, we do need defense now, but we need all positions in the future. I love this guy though. He's 6'2", and I saw listed anywhere from 172 to 176 pounds. So a bit of like a lanky, I'd say, skinny guy. He was ranked 4th on NHL Central Scouting as of 2 months ago, so that's pretty huge. And he was 5th in points per game among draft eligible players. He described his game in one word as being smart, which I think is a really smart answer to that question. And I just want to leave you with what Elite Prospect Scouts said about him. Displaying close to X-ray vision, O'Brien spots the tiniest seams between skates, under sticks, and above them. He sees through multiple defenders and behind his back, spotting teammates running at the back post and attacking a few steps late. When he can't spot a lane, he creates it, shifting defenders or faking a shot before dropping the puck to teammates. I am so hyped hearing that, especially when compared to the 0 points per year that some people thought we would take. That defenseman from the Seattle Thunderbirds. I think this kid will be valuable, and he also has something Catton does, and that's size. So that's what I have to say about him.
I love this pick. One thing with O'Brien, he mentioned it after being drafted that he's willing to play on the wing. A lot of people are like, "Oh, we signed another center." It's stereotypical fashion that we are going to probably draft a center, and the reasoning behind that is they are more versatile. They can play on the left, they can play on the right, they can play on the center. Like most of the times, that's the thing. When a player's a left winger or a right winger, chances are they're not good at playing center. Like that's why they're already playing on the wing. So with O'Brien, you really open up the door for future where like if Berkeley Catton is, a center, second, third line center, and O'Brien's time has come and he's like, I'm ready to go. He might be like, put me on the wing, because all of a sudden you can see a wing of O'Brien centering, and Catton centering him, and that's just something to look forward to for the future. The other thing is we could talk about defense. We need to draft defense, but as Derek mentioned it, you got to choose the best value. And with that pick, Jake O'Brien was the best value. I honestly think Jake O'Brien could have gone top 4. In my opinion, he is. I think he's going to be the steal of the draft. There was about 5. I would say the top 5 were like the quality picks, but I think Jake O'Brien's going to be one of those guys that develops quickly and is going to be really good for this team and really good in the NHL in a few years. So it's definitely someone to look forward to. And yeah, I think he's going to be hungry. He just seems like one of those kids that's, willing to put in the work. And yeah, a lot of people are saying, give him 3-4 years. I'm going to let's just go wild. I hope we can see him in the NHL in 2 or 3 years. Like that's my hope. I would love to see a line with him and Catton in about 2 or 3 years.
How old is he? How much of a baby is he?
He just turned 18. I think he just turned 18, or
Yeah,
he's
he turned 18 on June 16th.
yeah. So give him 20 years old. Give him at 20. Like, why not?
All right. Well, the calls for defensemen did not fall on deaf ears. The Kraken did indeed select a right-hand defenseman, Blake Fiddler, with the 36th overall pick in the second round. According to Seattle Kraken PR, Fiddler led all Oil Kings defensemen in points, goals, game-winning goals, and insurance goals. He also won gold for Canada at the 2024 Under-17 Hockey Challenge and bronze at the 2025 Under-18 World Championships. The 6'5", 220-pound D-man was ranked second among all draft-eligible WHL defensemen in points this year. We wanted a defenseman. We got a defenseman. I think things about this guy seem pretty good. How are we feeling about Blake Fiddler?
Absolutely love this pick. I had him like mid 20s for getting drafted. So when he fell into the second round, I was like, there's no way. The fact that we were able to get a guy who's 6'5", 220 already, and he's a defenseman, like, sign me up. Like, when you're talking about we need defense, Blake Fiddler's the guy that I think you could see in that 2-3 year window compete for a spot. And I do mean that. He has exactly what this team needs. He just needs to really hone in on it and craft that. Yeah. Excellent pickup. I still don't know how we were actually able to do that. So, yeah, fired up about this one. We got a good defensive prospect. What?
Yeah, I was gonna say it's about time the Kraken started filling out their defensive prospects, and by golly, did they do that this year? Starting with the best D-man available at the time in Blake Fiddler. He's 6'5" and 220, so he's a solid dude. Like, that is not fun to run up against. And from everything I've seen scouting wise, he is a professional defenseman. He isn't a guy who's going to go dancing out there like McCarr, but he is a guy who will be laser focused on his task at hand, which is getting the puck away from the other team and getting it going up ice for a transition play. The Kraken will need this so badly, like Alex was saying, especially considering the aging of Adam Larson, guys like that. This kid may be a beauty for us in terms of taking the puck away and not giving it away, which is the like perfect quintessential D-man job description.
So I'm just looking up here at our prospect pool. Who are we currently hanging on to in defense?
We got
Tyson
Ty
Jugnoff,
Nelson.
Lucas Dragosevic, Cale Fleury, Ville Otavainen, Caden Hamill, Ty Nelson, Caden Price, Gustav Olsen, Max Lajoie. Brilliard's gone. And
All I
now
hear
this
is
guy.
I put him second or third. Because I think Caden Price is up there. Jugnoff is up there. Dragosevic is another one that's up there, and then I think Ty Nelson, and then
Yeah, they're just different. Like,
and
yeah,
then
they're different.
Fiddler,
Jugnoth and Dragosevic are both like super offense too.
yeah, but Fiddler is like that stay-at-home defenseman that you really need.
Exactly. Like, he
Like,
serves a different purpose than Dragosevic or even Jugnoth, really.
yeah, and like Caden Price, I think Caden Price, like a couple of years ago, I would have said like Ty Nelson's your number one, but I think Caden Price is your number one now.
Yeah, and then Ty Nelson also, what's he, like 5'10" or like five?
Yeah.
Like, he's a short little meatball. I saw him
He's
at Dev
5'10",
Camp.
198.
Yeah, yeah. I saw him at Dev Camp 2 years ago. He is a little consolidated dude.
Yeah.
I mean, Caden Price is 6'1", 190, so he's taller but leaner.
Yeah, this dude's
So,
got massive size and
let's
knows how to
go.
use it.
All right. We weren't done with defensemen there, though, because J-Bots went on a just defensive flurry of activity. Rounding out the rest of the draft, they selected defenseman Will Reynolds, Maxim Agefanov, nailed it, and Carl Anborn, as well as right wing Loke Krantz. When all is said and done, dust is settled. This is our class. How do we feel about this year's draft?
Content. I think we all kind of expected that first pick was going to be the center. I don't think anybody truly believed that we were going to go for defensemen. And then, like you said, Gaudreau decided to put on his Infinity Gauntlet and says, "I'm going to collect defensemen like Infinity Stones," which he did. Francis was more about the centers with Infinity Stones, so it's a little nice change of scenery, so to speak. And then, to round it out, he decided to make himself a defensive sandwich by drafting a winger. So overall, Yeah, he really when you look at this draft class, we had a very lackadaisical defensive depth when it came to our prospect pool. And that is not a thing anymore. We actually have some depth. So you never know. We could find a diamond in the rough in this group. I think we have one in Fiddler, but I definitely hope we have another one maybe with Reynolds or even I got Funov. I'm gonna butcher that one too. Yeah, overall, I would give him like a solid like A minus B, like because I really do like those two picks, like the two
Yeah,
first
I think it
picks.
goes like hell yeah, hell yeah. Cool, we'll see what happens. Whatever.
Yeah, that's perfect way to describe it. Is like the first picks were like you go Glenn Coco, and then like the rest were like, yeah, I don't know who you are, but like cool beans.
Got to pick someone, so might as well. But Derek, how you feeling about this lot?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I mean, look, I'm gonna be honest. Looking through our pod notes, I was thinking like, oh, I really only went through like the top three picks, and it seems like that's kind of what everyone's doing too. Like, it is like amazing, amazing, and then okay, yeah, we'll see. That's usually how drafts are, I guess. Like outside of the second, maybe third round, like those guys are probably gonna take a while. Probably gonna forget about their name before they ever come up again. But yeah, I looked in the top three picks, and Will Reynolds looks to be sort of like another like shutdown defenseman that again we'll need in the future. So I'm happy with it if he pans out. I think our first pick this year in O'Brien is tremendously high value, and I'm super happy with that pick. It's also nice, like we said, to be building out our defensive prospect core. So I am what is considered a happy camper at the moment with Jay Botts' first draft.
The news just kept coming as we continue to work backwards on the calendar. In this very exciting week for the Kraken, prior to the draft, GM J Bots made another trade in addition to the Burakovsky and Marchment trades of the week prior. This trade on Thursday sent our 2025 fourth round pick to the Minnesota Wild in exchange for center Frederick Gaudreau. In the 2024-25 season, the 32-year-old Freddie played in 82 games, had 18 goals and 19 assists. Wild GM Bill Garine, I'm going to assume is how it's said he made the move to free up some cap room and allow some flexibility, all while praising what a great guy Gaudreau is. Many Wild fans in a reply expressed a lot of sadness over losing friendly Freddie, while many Kraken fans expressed some confusion. I think this move made a little more sense in the following days, which we'll get to shortly here. But how do we feel about this trade when it happened and kind of in the fallout of it?
I was honestly fine with this move even initially. I know a lot of folks seem to be maybe panicking about the Kraken getting too many depth centers, but within like a day, we had already bought out Veleno, and like they all kind of had egg on their face, in my opinion. Just like calm down, please. Like a little bit of patience, Daniel son. Like Gaudreau is going to be that fourth line solid center until we have a guy that can replace him there. There isn't much to it, in my opinion. He's pretty cheap. He's like 2 mil or whatever. So if a prospect making like 850,000 makes more sense at the spot, I think you have flexibility. It'd be like you're paying that prospect 2.8 million instead of 850K. It's not a big deal. It's not like he's making 7 mil. So I'm okay with it. I don't think this is anything to be upset about. Yeah, I'm content.
So I was one of those guys that when I saw the trade happen, I was the what the hell is going on here? Because at first it didn't make sense. Um, why are you trading for a 32-year-old center for a fourth round pick? So I had a couple of moments of head scratching. I looked at his stat line. I'm like, okay, 18 goals, 19 assists. Then I looked at the Kraken stat line and I was like, oh, he'd be tied with Brandon Montour for goals. And I was like, that's one thing. And then I looked at points wise. I'm like, oh, he'd be one of the better players on the team. For a fourth liner, sure, why not? Because if you looked at our fourth line last year, woof. So yeah, I'll take that. The negatives of it is that he's 32.
God, you're sounding like Derek.
I
That
know,
is
like,
a very problematic age.
yeah, seriously, like I got like what? I got like less than a month before I hit that number. So
Do
like
it.
sucks. But when I look at it, it's more of like for me, like 32 is one thing. He's got a couple more years left on his contract at 2.1 million. So like in the grand scheme of things, the cap hits nothing because the salary cap's just going to keep going, going, and going. Um, So it could be an easy barrier. Like you could bury that contract, you could trade him, whatever. But you need goals. The Kraken desperately need goals. So if you got a fourth liner who can put 18 goals in and 19 assists in, sign me up. But we're also talking about the Minnesota Wild, and that team can actually score where the Seattle Kraken can't. So hopefully he has some good luck and he can like sprinkle that with the Kraken, because if not, well, we're going to see those numbers deteriorate really quickly. But yeah, first was a little bit of a head scratcher. I'm looking at it now and I'm like, you know what? We aren't going to be good next year. So like, why not have Gaudreau on the fourth line? He can be a mentor to whoever he's playing on his wing, and we can kind of go from there.
So, just for anyone out there who's into the jersey customization game, just to give you a rundown of some of the new numbers and notes that are coming your way, Ryan Lindgren is taking number 55. Frederick Gaudreau is changing from his 89 he had to 88. Mason Marshman, who we talked about last week, has claimed number 27. And because he took 27, I did notice on the dev camp roster today that Berkeley Catton has switched to 77 instead of the 27 he's been wearing in the WHL. So hopefully you don't have a 27 Berkeley Catton jersey out there. And if you do, I guess it's a collector's item now, or you can find a way to turn that first seven or that two into a seven. And hopefully, a jersey you didn't rush out to get is for one Joe Veleno, because as Derek mentioned a little bit before burying the lead, is that this move with Gaudreau came a little more clear in the days that followed when it was revealed on Sunday that the Kraken were putting Joe Veleno on waivers with the intention of buying him out. Curtis from Sound of Hockey and Deep Sea Hockey on Twitter broke down this move as saying, quote, as a 25-year-old, Veleno can be bought out at the 1/3 level. If he goes unclaimed, he did, editor note, he will count 976,000 against the cap in 25-26 and $296,000 against the cap in 26-27. End quote. In the end, when you combine this with trading away Andrei Burakovsky with no retention, still stunned at that, the Kraken effectively saved around $4.7 million on their salary cap, which again makes this seem like an even more amazing trade that happened. After all that has come to an end, we have the signings that came in. We're still well out from preseason, which was announced. The preseason game were announced earlier this week, and the actual season starting. How do we feel about the current state of the Kraken roster?
This is the most mid team I've ever witnessed. like, like I think the best way to describe how this team is looking on paper is we're trying. I promise we're trying. But what they're actually saying is Gavin McKenna is the first overall pick this year. So we're going to do everything in our power to try to get that first overall pick. That's kind of what I see with this roster. To me, I really kind of hope that we trade away a couple of our veterans, because I am worried this team is still perfectly centered between not good enough to make the playoffs and congratulations, you're in the lottery, but you're at the tail end of the lottery. Like that's where I kind of see us. So I know there's still time in the off season, but when Jason Botterill said we are going to be aggressive during the off season, holy mid, this was the super softest aggressive off season I've ever seen, to quote Letterkenny. Because when you think of aggressive, you think we're gonna trade for some top end talent. We're gonna go for a player maybe in free agency, and an ownership was going, oh my God, we're going for it. We believe we're a playoff team, and they wouldn't, they're spewing all this to like the season ticket holders, which makes sense because they want them to buy season tickets. But I think what we're seeing right now is we're kind of seeing miscommunication. So what I see on, management and ownership, they're saying we're going for it. Aggressive. Let's do this. Let's do this. And then what we're actually seeing is like, yeah, we're aggressively tanking. So like, I think when I look at this, like this current roster, I am so mid about this. I already know that it's going to be 82 games of pain next season. I'm not projecting happy, fun times as a Seattle Kraken fan next year. My only happy fun time is if we get that first overall pick and we get Gavin McKenna. If not, it's still going to be super sad Kraken fan. But when you really look at it, yeah, it almost looks like a carbon copy of last season, like with this team. Like, sure, we got Mason Marchment, sure, we got Gaudreau, yeah, we have Lindgren, but like there hasn't really been much to be like there has been a change. It still looks like the same Ron Francis team that was put on the ice last season, except this time Jason Botterill's in the kitchen. Like, that's what I see. Like, there's not much difference. Like I said, there's plenty of time for things to change, but don't get your hopes up. Don't get your hopes up that we're going to be good. Don't get your hopes up that we're going to be bad. We're probably going to finish with 78 points this season.
So I think that GM JBots Botterill has worked an absolute masterclass in efficiently cleaning stuff up with this team. I think people, they love to complain and complain, it seems. But ridding Burakovsky and replacing him with a better player in Mason Marchment, acquiring Lindgren to hopefully bolster the blue line, and getting us on track to have cap space this season and for seasons to come. Man, I think he has really worked a beautiful transition season, off season. Yeah, I mean, when you look at what he was given when he steps into the front office, I agree with you. He should not have said aggressive. That's a poor choice of words. He's still learning how to figure all this stuff out with the media and all that.
No, he
You know what
shouldn't.
I'm-
He was the
you know
general
what I'm
manager of the
saying? Hey, it
Buffalo
was Buffalo.
Sabres.
Okay, that doesn't count as a real job. But no, he's still figuring it out. He shouldn't have said aggressive, though. I agree with you. But when you look at what he had a bunch of guys, an aging team, and they're all kind of on down years, and they're all a little overpaid, and they all kind of don't really have a lot of value. There aren't really the building blocks to like make these trades for like really good players. There aren't really the building blocks here. So what he kind of needs to do, and what I'll allude to in the future, or sorry, in the very near future, in a couple minutes when we talk about Grubauer up ahead, what we're really kind of counting on here are guys that were underperforming, bouncing back next year, or being healthy like that's kind of what we're counting on right now. And I think Botterill did a really good job of not like blowing everything up in the hope of getting like one good player, which is what curses teams for like decades. It's a horrible process. I would much rather be middle of the pack and build cleanly than go all out for like one or two good players and then still have a horrible team. If we're going to be bad no matter what next year, I think it's better to do it this way, be clean, and hope for bounce backs. But yeah, we'll talk about that in a second.
But I do want to say one thing, though. I think a lot of people are mentioning, like, oh, well, we'll just trade a lot of our expiring contracts at the deadline because maybe at that point we can get a better chance at getting that first overall pick, because I think a lot of people are assuming that we're going to be more at the bottom again. I feel like that's bad asset management. And the reason why I say that is you don't want to be at the deadline and we're sitting at a position where like we're bottom 5 or bottom 10 and we need to fall down the ranks, but it might be too late for that. Like, if we're really going to be contending for the last place, like, trade away your players this offseason, get assets back, players that are on expiring deals that are worse, and then maybe a draft pick or two, and then just let them go. Because, like, I don't know. Like, my biggest concern is that, and I know a lot of people are like, well, Jason Botterill is a different thinker, but like Jason Botterill was still in management while Ron Francis was the GM. He was the assistant general manager. Like, his fingerprints are all over this team that Ron Francis created. And I think that's my concern, is that, like, sure, someone else holds the rank of general manager, but he was still there when Ron Francis was like, we're going to offer, Chandler Stevenson 7 years. We're going to offer, Brandon Montour 7 years. We're going to offer.
Do we know if he really had like some sort of superseding say though?
But he was,
If JBot says no, Ronnie, I don't want to do that, does Ronnie just not do it? Like, is that the chain of command?
well, Ronnie's like a mob boss. Like, nobody really is going to question Ronnie
Exactly,
anyway.
bro.
He
But
sits in his
still-
perch at KCI and just watches over his kingdom.
But still, like, my biggest issue is that it's the same mindset that's in the
No,
management
I hear you. I
position.
hear you.
Like,
he's been almost trained by Ron Francis
exactly.
too.
Like,
Yeah.
you're not getting any fresh blood in this. Like, if you brought somebody in that wasn't a part of this management team whatsoever, like they're going to look at this with a different vision. They're going to look at this team and be like, X, Y, Z need to go. Like, I don't care. Whereas like J Bots is coming in and he's like, I like this guy. We picked this guy up. We did this. We did this. Ron talked to me about this guy. Ron talked to me about this guy. I'm going to keep this guy. Like, there, and I know people are like, well, Ron only was sent up to El Presidente last, during the offseason after the season ended. Like, let's be serious here. There was probably internal talk throughout the season that he was going to be promoted to president. And there was probably internal discussion that J-Bots was going to be general manager during the season. Like, I know
Yeah,
they're
Ron was doing
probably,
such a good job.
but they were so secretive, being like, oh, we're going to just choose somebody. We're not going to tell anybody. Like, I'm pretty sure this was already predetermined. So I have a problem with people saying, new general manager, new vision, where I really just see Ron Francis now sitting at a higher desk, at a higher, like at a different floor, still looking over, but instead of looking over the players, he's looking over J-Bots, being like, do I need to jump in and provide my own opinion on this? Or do I just let him do the thing that I've trained him to do?
Yeah, either way, to be clear, either way, no matter who's running the team, it could be me, it could be Matt, it could be you, it could be J-Bots, it could be Ron Francis. Each move we should analyze independently, and we should say, hey, this is a good move no matter who made it. This is a good move no matter who made it. So, in a sense, it doesn't super matter.
But it does at the same time. Like, it does, because like I know we could talk about the fact that like we got Burakovsky off the books, but like we basically, and we brought in Marchman, which I do love. I love the Marchman, the fact that we brought in Marchman. But then we brought in, Lindgren at 4.5. And like there's still discussion in the fact that maybe Lindgren's gonna be bad. Like we don't know what we're gonna get with Lindgren. So like, yeah, we freed up 4.7 million cap space, but we could have just brought
Lindgren
in
is
somebody.
kind of a gamble.
But that means we just brought in $4.5 million on a 4.7 million that we freed up, that we could be like, haha, we freed up $200,000. This is great. And so like this is where I'm kind of at, where it's just like, yeah, sure, there's been some really great asset management in getting rid of poor contracts, but in return we brought questionable contracts back in. Like Goche could be absolute ass, and then we're stuck with a 32-year-old on a $2.1 million contract for a couple more years. Lindgren could be absolute garbage, and we could be like, oh great, $4.5 million for 4 years.
He could also be a certified stud, though.
He could be. He could be a certified stud. It could be anything. But like, we're looking at everything like this. We're like, I don't know. I honestly would have rather have the Kraken just offload a lot of contracts this year and sign 1-year deals with like really with mediocre mid players, like really mid players, to bottom out your bottom two lines or whatever, and been like, yeah, we know what we're doing and we're being honest with it. Because like I look at this team right now and I'm like, yeah, they could figure it out and be that 78-point team where like they give you hope for too many months, but still hold on like they do every year. Or they could be that team that comes out flying out the gate and be like, no, we're bad. But like we don't know that yet. And that's the issue with this, is that when you look at this team, they could be either one of those. Where
I agree. I think it's it's flexible, and it's not like choosing to be good or choosing to be bad. It's not that simple. It's like keeping a team that could be good or bad, which is like most sports teams in general.
Yeah, but when you're in the Kraken's position, I think we all want to just see this team. We want to see a direction, and we still don't have a direction. Like some people are saying that we're doing like this year is like the year of like, what are they
transition or whatever, like sideways stepping, basically.
Yeah, but like I don't even see that as a transition. I don't see this as a transition year because of what they've done. Like a transition year is like we're offloading contracts and we're going to bring up some of the young kids, a lot of the young kids, and we're just going to let them play. But I don't know if we're going to see that now. So what are we? And that's where I'm kind of sitting at. I don't like, I was really hoping we were going to see some of the young kids come up and just get the opportunity, but I don't think we're going to see that now.
See, this is where I'm choosing to be like woefully optimistic about things that are yet to come. Like, I think we could have some exciting things out of training camp preseason. Like, give me a lineup of, you have Schwartzy, Matty, and Kako continuing to find their synergy and cook on that top line. Give me a second line of Shane at the center, Jared McCann on the wing, being like Jedi Master, whatever the hell you want to call it. And then give me on the other wing the Padawan of Berkeley Catton coming up and getting big show time and learning under the tutelage of Jared McCann. Give me a like fourth line of Gaudreau, Newman, and Tolvey. Like we can go back to our middle 12 ways that we talked about last week when we had a strong middle 12 and the middle 12 was putting out exciting hockey at least to watch versus just a washed up garbage team like we had towards the end of next year. I think there's lots of possibility to at least have entertaining hockey next year. I'm choosing to look at it through that lens. I'm not putting all my chips into the tank for McKenna thing yet. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. But I think that, like, yeah, some of these people are gambles, but I hope that Marchment comes in and is absolutely lights things up and clicks
Yep.
on this new team and does amazing things. I hope that Stevie continues to make awesome plays and piss people off because they're still chapped about his contract and think that he's absolute garbage. I want to see, like I said, give Catton a shot. And you know what, Ty Cartier, I hope you get a contract, but you're going to be the nacho guy, I think, and give Catton time up in the big leagues rather than sending him back to Spokane to get 275 points in 62 games or whatever the hell he's going to put up next year to like start planting the seeds for the future now so that these guys, the Newmans, the Cattons, the Kakos, get these reps in the Shanes, get these reps in so that next year we start firing more and start firing more rather than just being mid next season because who knows who's going to fill out some of the spots. Like I said, I'm pumped for training camp that maybe some moves and shakes can be made.
Completely agree, Matt. I don't think you've ever said anything that I thought was so poetically beautiful and
Ooh.
amazingly dope and true. And I completely agree.
Well, you made my cold, dead Canadian heart grow 3 sizes, and Alex is shaking his head.
No, I was just gonna say there's plenty of time still for things to change, and I think, but judging on it now, I'm more in that meh category. But that could change tomorrow.
If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Like the Kraken could do something wild tomorrow, and I could be like, okay, well, color me shocked. I'm impressed.
Okay, I think we could shake
Well-
hands on that.
Well, we have, according to Puckpedia, $12.7-ish million of projected cap space. So maybe we get an announcement tomorrow that they signed Ty Cartier to an 8-year, $9.6 million contract, and he's the
Oh my
future face of
gosh.
this franchise.
It's actually possible.
Anyway, we teased it before. Let's move along into our last bit of news from this week. And here around BTW, we've had some gimmicks, some memes, some things that have stayed around that we put in moratorium. For example, the Jim Carrey, so you're telling me there's a chance it is not allowed around these parts. And I think we are nearing, I think we are nearing that point on this next discussion because beating a dead horse might be insensitive given the person we're talking about. But the final piece of Kraken news this week comes from Jay Botts' press availability with the draft. When asked about the reports of Phillip Grubauer not being bought out, Botts confirmed the reports and said they'll work with GRU as well as try to improve the team in front of him to try and prevent another poor statistical season from happening again. Gaudreau said, quote, "We believe that Phillip can bounce back from that situation," end quote. And like I said, I know we have talked this point to death. I'm excited to not have to talk about it for a while. But we have a new head coach. We have a new goalie coach. GRU was out there today or yesterday at the dev camp helping the goalies, so that's awesome to see. We have some new pieces added to the Kraken puzzle. Can we give final thoughts for like at least until the season starts, unless something groundbreaking happens about the choice to keep GRU around?
Do you know the definition of insanity? Is doing the same thing over and over and over again, hoping that something changes. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the Seattle Kraken with Phillip Grubauer. Has since he signed his contract with the Kraken, it's been horrible, like absolutely horrible. Yeah, he had that one little time during the playoffs where he played lights out, but like ever since that, it's been a train wreck, absolutely horrible. Just wipe it from my memory. I lean on the fence of both sides when it comes to the buyout because part of me is like, why are we doing this? Have you seen that contract? We just signed Matt Murray to a 1.1 year times $1 million contract. That is what the Phillip Grubauer contract should look like. Instead, here's $5.9 million. And I'm like, okay, why aren't we doing this? But then on the other side, I look at it and I'm just like, well, if you want to get that top draft pick, you just keep putting Grubauer in net because he won't stop it. Of course, this year he'll find a way to be like, no, I'm going to stop us from actually getting that first overall pick and just turn into like a god mode.
82 consecutive shutouts.
Yeah, and then like watches goals against average go just rocket and his save percentage just drop. But no, I was originally a little shocked to see Gaudreau be like, yeah, we believe in him. We believe that he can bounce back, and we're going to keep him. And because I was a sure thing thought he was going to be bought out. But at the same time, I'm just like, it's the Seattle Kraken. It's the Seattle Kraken. They're gonna keep this man with him until his contract's up or they decide next season that it's time to go. Yeah, to be brutally honest, I know there's a lot of people that are like, you are a GRU hater. And I'm like, I'm not a GRU hater. I just hate his contract and he's not worth it as per the Matt Murray signing. And to be brutally honest, I cannot wait to stop talking about this because it's been long and grueling and quite frank,
Grueling.
Grubauerling.
No, you ruined it. You're in my
yeah.
joke.
Oh well. Yeah, and
Should we buy out Grubauer? Is this season's who's going to wear the C?
Yeah, but like we are gonna buy out Grubauer next year. If we don't buy out Grubauer next year, I'll eat my hat.
All right, quote it. Derek, what's your
Well,
final stance on this?
I don't think you'll have to deal with this grueling question, Alex, because I think the GRU situation is going to get better. Okay, I don't think it's likely to get better, but it's that optimism that Matt talked about earlier. It's got me. It's got me like a bug. I think I did this last off season too, but I'm not going to stop it. I'm gonna go into at least the first game of the season with the positive vibes, and they'll probably completely shot by a game 5. But I think the GRU situation here gives me a solid jumping off point, and it's almost verbatim what Matt said in our last topic for discussion. But I pre-planned these notes, so I'm gonna hit it anyway. This is what I really want to hit home this week on the pod, and I know we're nearing the end of the show here, but here's what I have to say: success always immediately feels unsustainable, and failure always seems like to feel permanent, at least to me. But it's not. A simple retooling like this we did this season on top of a healthy Eberle, healthy Schwartz, healthy McCann, healthy Vince Dunn, a bounce back season from Phillip Grubauer, continued progression from Beniers and Wright, a full season of Capo Caco, the continued dominance of Ellie Tolvanen and Brandon Montour. This team could be formidable. Don't be afraid to trust and root and cheer for the guys that we currently have on the team. Don't forget to be a fan of the Kraken. Don't count out this roster. Anything is possible in sports. And if you are going to be watching the games this season, if you watch the games in our 2022-2023 season, you know that things can just always seem to be going your way in hockey, despite the roster you have. We can break out. And I think if that happened, a lot of our frowns would turn upside down, and we would probably be backwards analyzing, rationalizing what GMJB did to get us to where we are. I would just say to have some patience with GM J Bots. He has to take the team in its current state, like I said earlier, 2 miserably bad seasons in a row and get us to greatness. New coach, new staff, new year, new Groovy, new year, new Groovy. Shane Wright takes a big step up, maybe. McCann, Ebbs, and Schwartz form a 3 musketeers of elite veterans on the Kraken. Let's go. Come on. Get with it. Vince Dunn and Brandon Montour form a lethal back-to-back onslaught of power play quarterbacks. There's so much hope. Maybe Newman cracks the roster and is sniping from the power play, from the PP time all year long. It's possible. It is possible. And I promise it won't always be this horribly mid for the Kraken. Things can change.
And I will say, if you find it unbearably mid and you're hating your life, there's another team you can follow, and that's PWHL Seattle. So get on that hype train, that breath of fresh air, and go along for that ride if you're getting a little sick of the Kraken.
I'm just gonna say I can't wait for tomorrow morning when we all wake up to a tweet that says Seattle Kraken have traded Jared McCann, and I'm just gonna see Derek just lose his ever
I
loving mind.
will
being
melt.
Like, no, my
I will
speech."
melt.
I will FaceTime the both of you and hit screen record, and emergency pod goes out. That's like
Oh my
me,
gosh.
groggy voiced in my pajamas, like toothbrush half dangling out of my mouth, having a meltdown.
Just
Not even an
retrofit my
actual-
speech though, and just take out the name McCann, and we're all good.
Okay.
But it wouldn't even be like an actual pod. It would just be goal horns the entire time.
Oh
It
my
would just
God.
be me sobbing in my Winter Classic Jared McCann jersey.
I think we would have to end the pod.
Oh, I don't know about that. We persevere like the Kraken this season. See what I did there? I brought it back. Happy ending. All right, but we've been at this for a while. This was a good one, guys. That's going to do it for this week. We don't really know what's on the horizon on the BTW front. Hopefully, we get some lulls in hockey action here. We can all take a little vacation, rest our hockey brains, a little mental health action. And if news does come up, we'll be back here. We'll maybe have some little mini pods along the way. Derek, in our potential absence here, and just for if we are back around, could you let everyone know where to find BTW online?
Yes, absolutely, Matt. So just real quick, you should go check out our store, bit.ly/BTW store. There is so much cool Kraken merchandise on there. And, if you're feeling this lull in hockey and you're feeling a little bit depressed, or maybe you're feeling a little bit optimistic, go get some sick merch. We got some Shane Wright stuff, some Joey Decord stuff. What else we got, Matt?
Brandon Montour, Montemania.
Oh yeah, we got so much over up in there. That's bit.ly/BTW store. I also wanted to give another shout out to our own Heather, who is killing it, writing for the Hockey News. You can go find her article at the Hockey News Women's. Do you have the handle for the Twitter, Matt?
The Hockey News W.
Okay.
At the Hockey News W.
Perfect. Yep. So go over to the Hockey News W and go read Heather's article with Lily D. And then please drop a follow and a 5-star review on the podcast app of your choice. Really helps us out. Thank you so much. And I just wanted to say before we get going here, okay, I promise at the end of the day, it will all be okay. So take a chill pill and drop a follow at BTW SEA, okay? Things will get better. Things will get brighter. Jared McCann will still be on the team tomorrow. Despite what Alex says. All right, everyone, have a great rest of your day. Thank you for listening, and see you when we see you.
We going beneath the waves. Going beneath the waves.